Sarah Mitchell, 34, and her 8-year-old son Tommy disappeared on November 5, 2016, while on a weekend camping trip to Monongahela National Forest in West Virginia. The single mother had told colleagues at Pocahontas Memorial Hospital, where she worked as a registered nurse, that she planned to take Tommy hiking and camping for the weekend before returning to work Monday morning. According to hospital records, Sarah had requested Friday off to extend their weekend trip. Her supervisor, Nancy Coleman, later told investigators that Sarah seemed excited about the outing. She mentioned wanting to show Tommy some new trails before winter set in, Coleman stated in her police interview. Sarah was always talking about their hiking adventures. It was something they did together regularly. The Mitchell family lived in a small rental house on Maple Street in Hillsborough, a town of approximately 800 residents in Pocahontas County. Sarah had moved there 3 years earlier from Charleston following her divorce, seeking a quieter environment to raise Tommy. Property records show she rented the 2-bedroom house from local resident Robert Hayes for $650 per month. Sarah's sister, Jane Morrison, who lived 40 minutes away in Lewisburg, was the primary emergency contact for both Sarah and Tommy. Morrison told police that Sarah had called her Wednesday evening, November 2nd, to discuss the camping plans. Sarah said they were going to try a new area of the forest, Morrison recalled in her statement. She mentioned wanting to get Tommy away from video games and back outdoors before the weather turned too cold. Tommy attended Hillsborough Elementary School, where he was enrolled in 3rd grade. His teacher, Mrs. Patricia Webb, described him as a quiet but curious student who frequently brought leaves, rocks, and other natural specimens to class. Tommy would often talk about the places his mother took him hiking, Webb told investigators. He knew quite a bit about local wildlife for his age. School attendance records show Tommy was present all week leading up to the disappearance, with no reported behavioral changes or concerns. The school's principal, David Fletcher, confirmed that Sarah had informed them Friday morning about Tommy's planned absence Monday, which was not unusual given her previous requests for extended weekend activities. Sarah worked the day shift at Pocahontas Memorial Hospital, typically beginning at 7 a.m. and finishing at 7 p.m. Hospital Administrator Dr. Michael Roberts stated that Sarah had been employed there for 2.5 years and maintained excellent attendance. She was reliable and well-liked by both staff and patients, Roberts said in his official statement. There were no disciplinary issues or workplace conflicts that would suggest personal problems. Co-workers described Sarah as dedicated to her son and passionate about outdoor activities. Fellow nurse Jennifer Parks, who worked the same shift rotation, told police that Sarah frequently discussed upcoming hiking trips during breaks. She always had her phone full of pictures from their adventures, Parks stated. She was proud of how much Tommy enjoyed being outdoors. Financial records obtained by investigators showed Sarah earned approximately $45,000 annually at the hospital. Bank statements indicated regular monthly expenses consistent with supporting a single-parent household, including rent, utilities, groceries, and Tommy's school expenses. There were no unusual withdrawals or financial irregularities in the weeks leading up to their disappearance. Sarah's vehicle, a 2014 silver Honda CR-V with West Virginia license plate WVU 4527, was registered in her name with current inspection and registration. Vehicle maintenance records from Hillsborough Auto Repair show the car received regular service, with the last oil change completed October 18, 2016. Shop owner Mark Stevens told police the vehicle was in good working condition. The weekend camping trip was not unusual for the Mitchell family. Neighbors on Maple Street reported seeing Sarah and Tommy leave for outdoor excursions approximately twice per month during spring, summer, and fall seasons. Next-door neighbor Eleanor Rodriguez stated she frequently saw them loading camping gear into the Honda on Friday evenings or Saturday mornings. They always waved goodbye, Rodriguez told investigators. Tommy would be excited, talking about what animals he might see. Sarah always made sure he had his backpack and that everything was packed properly in the car. Sarah typically purchased camping supplies at the local Walmart in Marlinton, approximately 20 minutes from their home. Store security footage from November 4th shows Sarah and Tommy shopping in the sporting goods section, purchasing items including freeze-dried meals, batteries, and propane canisters for their portable stove. Tommy's backpack, described by his teacher as a blue and black design featuring dinosaurs, was not found at their residence after the disappearance. Sarah typically carried a red day pack for hiking, according to several witnesses who had encountered them on local trails throughout the previous summer. The planned destination for their November camping trip was Monongahela National Forest, specifically an area near Dolly Sod's wilderness. Sarah had mentioned this location to her sister during their Wednesday phone conversation. Forest Service records show the area remained open to camping in November, though rangers typically warned visitors about rapidly changing weather conditions at higher elevations. Local weather reports for November 5-6, 2016 indicated partly cloudy conditions with temperatures ranging from 38 to 52 degrees Fahrenheit. However, meteorologists noted that mountain elevations could experience temperatures 10-15 degrees colder, with possibility of overnight frost. Sarah had established a routine of contacting her sister by Sunday evening following their camping trips. Morrison stated this communication pattern had been consistent for over a year. "She always called to let me know they made it home safely," Morrison explained to police. "When I didn't hear from her Sunday night, I started calling her cell phone, but it went straight to voicemail." Hospital records show Sarah was scheduled to work Monday, November 7th, beginning at 7 a.m. When she failed to report for duty, Supervisor Nancy Coleman attempted to contact her by phone at 7:15 a.m. "It was completely out of character for Sarah not to show up or call," Coleman stated. In 2.5 years, she had never missed a shift without advance notice. School officials at Hillsborough Elementary became concerned when Tommy failed to arrive for classes Monday morning. Given that Sarah had only requested Friday off, Attendance Secretary Mary Williams called the Mitchell residence at 9:30 a.m., but received no answer. A second call to Sarah's cell phone at 10 a.m. went directly to voicemail. By Monday afternoon, both the hospital and school had attempted multiple contacts with no response. Jane Morrison, who had been trying to reach her sister since Sunday evening, decided to drive to the Maple Street residence. She arrived at approximately 4 p.m. and found no vehicles in the driveway and no response to repeated knocking. Morrison contacted neighbor Eleanor Rodriguez, who confirmed she had not seen Sarah or Tommy since they departed Saturday morning. "I told Jane I saw them loading their camping stuff into the car around 8 a.m. Saturday," Rodriguez later told police. They had their usual gear: the tent, sleeping bags, cooler, and backpacks. Using the spare key Sarah had given her for emergencies, Morrison entered the house at approximately 4:30 p.m. Monday. She found the residence in normal condition, with no signs of disturbance. Mail had accumulated since Saturday, and there were no indications that Sarah and Tommy had returned from their camping trip. Morrison immediately contacted the Pocahontas County Sheriff's Office at 5:15 p.m. Monday, November 7th, to report her sister and nephew missing. Deputy Sheriff Frank Williams responded to the residence at 6 p.m. to take the initial missing persons report. The official investigation began that evening, with law enforcement obtaining details about the planned camping location, vehicle description, and timeline of the family's activities. Sheriff's deputies noted that while 48 hours had not yet passed since Sarah and Tommy were last seen, the combination of missed work and school obligations raised immediate concerns. Emergency contacts provided by Morrison included Sarah's former husband, David Mitchell, who lived in Ohio. When contacted by police, David Mitchell confirmed he had no recent communication with Sarah or Tommy and was not expecting any visitation. Divorce records indicated David paid regular child support, but had limited custody arrangements. The case was classified as a missing persons investigation involving a mother and minor child, with immediate steps taken to issue a BOLO alert for Sarah's vehicle. West Virginia State Police were notified, and preparations began for search operations in the Monongahela National Forest area, where the family had planned to camp. As Monday evening turned to Tuesday morning, the small community of Hillsborough began to grasp the gravity of the situation. Sarah Mitchell and her young son Tommy had vanished without a trace during what should have been a routine weekend camping adventure in the mountains they knew and loved. The search for Sarah and Tommy Mitchell officially began at 6 a.m. Tuesday, November 8, 2016, when Pocahontas County Sheriff's deputies, accompanied by West Virginia State Police, arrived at the Dolly Sod's wilderness area where the family had planned to camp. The investigation intensified when Sarah's 2014 Honda CR-V was discovered at 7:30 a.m. in the main trailhead parking area, approximately 12 miles from the nearest paved road. According to the initial police report filed by Deputy Sheriff Frank Williams, the vehicle was found unlocked with the keys still in the ignition. The car appeared to have been parked normally in a designated space, with no signs of damage or forced entry. Inside the vehicle, investigators found Sarah's black leather purse containing her driver's license, credit cards, and $127 in cash, along with Tommy's favorite book, Where the Red Fern Grows, left on the front passenger seat. The presence of the purse with identification and money immediately ruled out robbery as a motive, stated Sheriff Robert Martinez in his press briefing Tuesday afternoon. We also found no evidence of struggle in or around the vehicle, which suggested they had departed on foot voluntarily. A thorough inventory of the Honda's contents, conducted by State Police Trooper Lisa Chen, revealed that most of the camping equipment the family had purchased was missing. The items left behind included a half-empty bag of trail mix in the center console, 2 bottles of water in the cup holders, and a West Virginia road atlas with a bookmark marking the Dolly Sods area. Jane Morrison, who had driven to the search site Tuesday morning, provided investigators with a detailed list of equipment Sarah typically brought on camping trips. She always packed the same gear, Morrison told police. A 4-person tent, 2 sleeping bags, a Coleman camping stove, a cooler, and their backpacks with clothes and supplies. Forest Service Ranger Michael Thompson, who had worked the Dolly Sods area for 8 years, explained to investigators that the parking area where the Honda was found served multiple trail systems. There are at least 6 different trails that branch off from this location, Thompson stated in his report. Some are well-marked day hikes. Others are more challenging backcountry routes that can extend for days. The initial search team consisted of 12 sheriff's deputies, 4 state police officers, 6 Forest Service Rangers, and 2 K-9 units from the West Virginia Search and Rescue. According to Search Coordinator Captain James Walsh, teams began systematic sweeps of the most popular trails, working outward from the parking area in expanding circles. The first significant development came at 10:45 a.m., when Ranger Thompson discovered footprints on the Bear Rocks Trail, approximately 1 mile from the parking area. We found clear impressions of 2 different shoe sizes in a muddy section of trail, Thompson reported. The smaller prints were consistent with a child's hiking boots, while the larger ones matched adult women's footwear. K-9 units Ranger and Scout, both trained in tracking missing persons, were brought to the footprint location at 11:30 a.m. Handler Officer Patricia Mills reported that both dogs picked up a scent trail heading northeast from the Bear Rocks Trail toward more remote sections of the wilderness area. The dogs showed strong interest and began tracking immediately, Mills stated in her official report. The scent trail led us approximately 2 miles further into the backcountry before we encountered a rocky outcropping where the trail appeared to go cold. Weather conditions on Tuesday remained favorable for search operations, with clear skies and temperatures reaching 48 degrees Fahrenheit. However, Ranger Thompson warned that the previous weekend had seen overnight temperatures drop below freezing at higher elevations, particularly in areas above 3,500 feet elevation. By Tuesday afternoon, word of the missing family had spread throughout Pocahontas County. Volunteer search groups began forming, led by local residents familiar with the mountain terrain. Hardware store owner Bill Henderson organized a group of 15 local hunters and hikers who knew the Dolly Sods area from years of recreational activities. Sarah and Tommy were well known in our community, Henderson told reporters Tuesday evening. When we heard they were missing, folks just started showing up with their gear, ready to help look for them. The volunteer search efforts were coordinated through the Pocahontas County Emergency Management Agency, directed by Martha Stevens. According to Stevens, more than 60 volunteers participated in Tuesday's search operations, covering approximately 40 square miles of forest terrain. Hospital Administrator Dr. Michael Roberts addressed media questions about Sarah's work performance and personal circumstances at a press conference Tuesday evening. Sarah Mitchell was a dedicated employee and caring mother, Roberts stated. There were no workplace issues or personal problems that would suggest she intended to disappear voluntarily. Tommy's teacher, Patricia Webb, provided additional context about the family's outdoor activities when interviewed by investigators Tuesday afternoon. Tommy often brought maps and trail guides to school, Webb told police. He was very knowledgeable about local hiking areas and seemed genuinely excited about their camping trips. The search expanded Wednesday morning, November 9th, with the addition of a West Virginia State Police helicopter equipped with thermal imaging equipment. Pilot Captain David Reed conducted aerial sweeps of the wilderness area, focusing on ravines and dense forest sections where ground teams could not easily access. Thermal imaging is most effective in early morning and late evening hours, Reed explained to reporters. We were looking for heat signatures that might indicate people seeking shelter or moving through the forest. Despite clear weather conditions and extensive aerial coverage, the helicopter search yielded no significant findings on Wednesday. Reed reported spotting several deer and a black bear, but no human activity in the search zone. Ground search teams on Wednesday expanded their efforts to include more remote trail systems, including the Rocky Ridge Trail and the Beaver Dam Run area. These locations required overnight camping by search teams due to their distance from vehicle access points. Search and rescue team leader Captain Walsh reported that Wednesday's ground operations involved 82 volunteers and professional searchers covering approximately 60 square miles. We're conducting grid searches of all accessible areas, Walsh stated. Every team has GPS equipment to ensure we don't miss any locations. The investigation took on additional urgency Wednesday evening when meteorologists forecast a significant weather system approaching the region. According to National Weather Service meteorologist Jennifer Adams, the forecast called for heavy rain beginning Thursday night, with potential snow at elevations above 3,000 feet. Rain and snow will make search operations much more difficult, Adams told investigators. It will also create dangerous conditions for anyone who might be exposed to the elements without adequate shelter. Jane Morrison established a communications center at the Hillsborough Community Center Wednesday evening, coordinating with family members and providing updates to media outlets. We're not giving up hope, Morrison told reporters. Sarah is an experienced hiker, and Tommy is a smart kid. We believe they're out there waiting for us to find them. The search effort attracted regional media attention by Wednesday evening, with news crews from Charleston and Beckley arriving to cover the story. Local television station WVAH reported extensively on the case, interviewing community members and search volunteers. Thursday morning, November 10th, brought deteriorating weather conditions as predicted. Light rain began at 6 a.m., forcing search coordinators to modify their operations and prioritize searcher safety. Despite the challenging conditions, search teams continued their efforts with reduced visibility and increasingly difficult terrain. The K-9 units were pulled from active duty Thursday morning due to weather concerns, as rain began washing away any remaining scent trails. Handler Officer Mills explained that continuing K-9 operations in heavy rain would be ineffective and potentially dangerous for the animals. Forest Service officials expanded the search zone Thursday to include areas beyond the immediate Dolly Sods vicinity, considering the possibility that Sarah and Tommy might have traveled further than initially estimated. This expansion added approximately 100 square miles to the search area. Sheriff Martinez held a press conference Thursday afternoon, providing updates on the investigation and search operations. We have now searched the most likely areas where Sarah and Tommy Mitchell might have traveled, Martinez stated. We are expanding our efforts while maintaining hope for their safe return. By Thursday evening, the combined search effort had involved more than 200 volunteers and professional searchers over 3 days. Weather conditions continued to deteriorate, with temperatures dropping and steady rain creating muddy, hazardous conditions throughout the search area. The case attracted attention from outside agencies Thursday night, with offers of assistance from search and rescue teams in Virginia and Maryland. Federal agencies, including the FBI, were notified of the case but had not yet become directly involved in the investigation. Community support for the search effort remained strong, despite the challenging weather. Local restaurants provided meals for search volunteers, while businesses donated supplies including flashlights, batteries, and rain gear. The Hillsborough Baptist Church opened its doors as a staging area for volunteer coordination. Friday morning, November 11th, marked the 4th day since Sarah and Tommy Mitchell were last seen. Weather conditions had worsened overnight, with steady rain and fog reducing visibility throughout the search area. Search coordinators made the difficult decision to suspend aerial operations due to unsafe flying conditions. We have not given up on finding Sarah and Tommy, Sheriff Martinez emphasized at Friday's press briefing. We are modifying our approach due to weather conditions, but search operations will continue as soon as it is safe to do so. The investigation had now consumed significant resources from multiple agencies across West Virginia. State police had assigned 6 full-time investigators to the case, while the Pocahontas County Sheriff's Office had committed half of its available personnel to search and investigative duties. As Friday evening arrived with no significant developments, the reality began setting in for family members and the local community that Sarah and Tommy Mitchell had been missing for nearly a week. The initial optimism that they would be quickly found had given way to growing concern about their survival in increasingly harsh mountain conditions. Jane Morrison addressed media and community members Friday evening, expressing gratitude for the search efforts while acknowledging the difficult circumstances. "We know Sarah and Tommy are fighters," Morrison stated. "Our family is grateful for everyone who has helped search for them, and we're not giving up hope that they will come home." The search for Sarah and Tommy Mitchell had evolved from a routine missing persons case into a major operation involving hundreds of volunteers and multiple agencies. As the first week came to a close, investigators faced the daunting reality of searching vast wilderness areas where 2 people had seemingly vanished without leaving any definitive trail to follow. 3 months after Sarah and Tommy Mitchell's disappearance, the active search operations in Monongahela National Forest were officially suspended on February 15, 2017. Sheriff Robert Martinez announced the decision during a press conference, citing the exhaustion of all reasonable search areas and the onset of winter weather conditions that made continued ground operations unsafe. "We have conducted the most extensive search operation in Pocahontas County history," Martinez stated. "Our teams, along with state and federal agencies, have covered over 300 square miles of wilderness terrain. While we are suspending active search operations, this case remains open and under investigation." The statistics surrounding the search effort were staggering according to West Virginia State Police records. Over 1,200 volunteers had participated in search operations between November 2016 and February 2017. Professional search teams had logged 2,147 man-hours, while helicopter operations totaled 47 flight hours covering the expanded search zone. Detective Maria Santos of the West Virginia State Police was assigned as lead investigator on the cold case in March 2017. Santos, a 15-year veteran with experience in missing persons investigations, began a comprehensive review of all evidence collected during the initial search period. "When I took over this case, I started from the beginning," Santos explained in a later interview. "I reviewed every witness statement, every piece of physical evidence, and every search report. Sometimes fresh eyes can spot details that were missed in the initial urgency to find missing persons." Santos's first significant discovery came while reviewing Sarah Mitchell's financial records from the 6 months preceding her disappearance. Bank statements revealed a pattern of unusual activity that had not been thoroughly investigated during the initial search period. According to Chase Bank records subpoenaed by investigators, Sarah had made 3 large cash withdrawals in October 2016, totaling $2,400. The withdrawals occurred on October 12th, October 19th, and October 26th, each for exactly $800. This represented approximately 15% of Sarah's total savings account balance. The timing and amounts of these withdrawals were significant, Santos noted in her case files. Sarah typically made small, routine withdrawals for household expenses. These larger amounts represented a departure from her normal banking patterns. When Santos interviewed Sarah's supervisor at Pocahontas Memorial Hospital, Nancy Coleman, additional details emerged about Sarah's behavior in the weeks before the disappearance. Coleman recalled that Sarah had seemed distracted and had made several personal phone calls during work hours, which was unusual for her professional conduct. "I remember thinking Sarah seemed worried about something in late October," Coleman told Detective Santos during a follow-up interview in April 2017. "She was normally very focused on her patients, but she seemed to be checking her phone more frequently and appeared anxious." Hospital security footage from October 2016, which had been preserved at Santos's request, showed Sarah making extended phone calls in the parking lot during her lunch breaks. The calls typically lasted 15-20 minutes, significantly longer than her usual brief check-ins with Tommy's school or her sister. Santos attempted to subpoena Sarah's cell phone records from Verizon, but discovered that the account had been closed in September 2016, approximately 6 weeks before the disappearance. The account closure had been initiated by Sarah herself, who had switched to a prepaid cell phone service that did not maintain detailed call records. The timing of switching to an untraceable phone service raised questions, Santos documented. Most people don't abandon established phone contracts unless they have specific reasons for wanting privacy or anonymity. Detective Santos then turned her attention to Sarah's personal relationships, conducting interviews with co-workers, neighbors, and acquaintances who had not been thoroughly questioned during the initial investigation. These conversations revealed details about Sarah's social life that painted a more complex picture. Jennifer Parks, Sarah's co-worker and friend at the hospital, provided information about Sarah's dating life during a May 2017 interview. Parks revealed that Sarah had been seeing someone she met through an online dating app, though Sarah had been secretive about the relationship. Sarah mentioned she was talking to someone online, but she never wanted to give details, Parks told Detective Santos. She said she was being careful because of Tommy, and that she didn't want to introduce men into their lives unless it was serious. Parks recalled that Sarah had seemed excited about this relationship in late summer 2016, but by October, her demeanor had changed. She stopped talking about dating altogether, Parks stated. When I asked about the guy she'd been seeing, she just said it didn't work out and seemed uncomfortable discussing it. Santos requested records from popular dating websites and apps, eventually obtaining user data from Match.com showing Sarah had maintained an active profile from June through September 2016. The profile was deactivated on September 28, 2016, just weeks before her disappearance. Through the dating site records, Santos identified several men who had communicated with Sarah online. Most were routine interactions that led nowhere, but one contact stood out, a user named Mountain Man 304, who had exchanged dozens of messages with Sarah between July and September 2016. The profile for Mountain Man 304 claimed to be a 38-year-old construction worker from Elkins, West Virginia, named Michael Thompson. However, when Santos attempted to locate this individual, she discovered that no Michael Thompson matching the profile description existed in Elkins, and the phone number associated with the account was traced to a prepaid cell phone that was no longer in service. This suggested someone was using false information to communicate with Sarah, Santos noted. The question became whether this deception was simply someone being cautious about online dating, or if it represented something more concerning. Santos expanded her investigation to include Sarah's internet activity, obtaining search warrants for her home computer and laptop. Digital forensic analysis conducted by the State Police Computer Crimes Unit revealed Sarah's browsing history from the months before her disappearance. The browser history showed that Sarah had conducted numerous searches related to personal safety and disappearing, according to the forensic report completed in June 2017. Search terms included how to disappear without being found, starting a new life with a child, fake identity documents, and living off the grid with children. Additional searches found in Sarah's internet history included queries about remote camping locations, wilderness survival techniques, and homeschooling requirements in various states. The searches suggested Sarah might have been planning to leave her current life, though the reasons remained unclear. The internet searches presented two possibilities, Detective Santos documented. Either Sarah was planning to disappear voluntarily with Tommy, or she was researching these topics because she felt threatened and was looking for ways to protect herself and her son. Santos also discovered that Sarah had been researching her ex-husband David Mitchell extensively in the months before her disappearance. The searches included his current address in Ohio, his employer information, and court records related to their divorce and custody arrangements. When Santos contacted David Mitchell for a follow-up interview in July 2017, he provided additional information about his relationship with Sarah that had not emerged during the initial investigation. David revealed that Sarah had been concerned about a man who had been following her and Tommy around Hillsborough in the weeks before they disappeared. Sarah called me in October, which was unusual because we rarely spoke unless it was about Tommy's visitation, David told Detective Santos. She said some guy had been showing up places where she and Tommy went, the grocery store, Tommy's school, even at the hospital parking lot. David explained that Sarah had been frightened enough to consider moving away from Hillsborough and had asked about modifying their custody arrangement to allow her to relocate to Ohio with Tommy. I told her she could move closer if she felt unsafe, David stated. She said she was thinking about it but wanted to be careful about how she handled the situation. This revelation prompted Santos to review all incident reports filed in Pocahontas County during September and October 2016. She found no formal complaints from Sarah about being followed or threatened, but did discover 2 reports of suspicious activity near Hillsborough Elementary School that had been filed by other parents. On October 8, 2016, parent Linda Harrison had reported seeing an unfamiliar man in a dark pickup truck parked across from the school during pickup time. A similar report was filed on October 15th by parent Carol Williams, who noticed a man watching children from inside a vehicle parked on a side street near the school. These reports described a male subject, approximately 35-40 years old, driving a dark-colored pickup truck with tinted windows, according to the police reports reviewed by Santos. The man would leave when approached by parents or school officials, but had been seen on multiple occasions. Detective Santos attempted to connect these sightings with Sarah's concerns about being followed, but the witnesses could not provide detailed descriptions of the man or vehicle license plate numbers. The incidents had not been thoroughly investigated at the time, because no direct threats or illegal activity had been reported. Santos also discovered that Sarah had contacted a domestic security company in Charleston during October 2016, inquiring about home security systems and personal protection devices. According to Secure Tech Solutions records, Sarah had requested information about door and window alarms, as well as personal panic devices. Company representative Mark Stevens confirmed that Sarah had scheduled a consultation appointment for November 14, 2016, to discuss installing a security system in her rental home. She seemed genuinely concerned about her safety, Stevens told Detective Santos. She specifically asked about devices that could silently alert police if she felt threatened. The November 14th appointment was scheduled for 8 days after Sarah and Tommy disappeared, suggesting she had planned to be home and continuing her normal life beyond their camping weekend. This evidence contradicted theories that Sarah had planned a permanent disappearance. Santos's investigation also revealed that Sarah had been in contact with a family law attorney in Charleston during October 2016. Attorney Patricia Moore confirmed that Sarah had scheduled a consultation to discuss restraining orders and custody protection, though the appointment had been set for November 21, 2016. Sarah expressed concerns about someone who had been making her uncomfortable, Moore told Detective Santos. She wanted to understand her legal options for protecting herself and her son, including the possibility of relocating to another state. By August 2017, Detective Santos had assembled a significantly more complex picture of Sarah Mitchell's final months than had emerged during the initial investigation. The evidence suggested that Sarah felt threatened by an unknown individual, had been taking steps to protect herself and Tommy, and had been considering various options for ensuring their safety. However, the identity of the person who had been allegedly following Sarah remained unknown. The false identity used to communicate with her through the dating website, combined with the suspicious activity reports near Tommy's school, suggested a pattern of deceptive behavior by someone with concerning intentions. The investigation revealed that Sarah Mitchell was not simply a mother who decided to take her son camping, Santos concluded in her August 2017 case summary. She was a woman who felt threatened and was actively seeking ways to protect herself and her child from an unknown danger. The case had evolved from a missing persons investigation into a potential criminal matter, though the lack of physical evidence or identified suspects made prosecution impossible. Sarah and Tommy Mitchell remained missing, but the circumstances surrounding their disappearance had become far more complex and troubling than initially understood. As 2017 drew to a close, Detective Santos continued following leads and conducting interviews, but the trail remained cold. The mysterious individual who had been contacting Sarah and possibly following her family had vanished as completely as Sarah and Tommy themselves, leaving investigators with more questions than answers about what had really happened during that November camping trip. On October 14, 2024, nearly 8 years after Sarah and Tommy Mitchell disappeared, local hunters Mark Rodriguez and his son Carlos were tracking wild turkey in a remote section of Monongahela National Forest when they made a discovery that would reopen the cold case. The father and son were following turkey tracks through dense woodland approximately 4 miles northeast of the original search area when they noticed unusual debris in a massive dead oak tree. We were looking up trying to spot turkeys when Carlos pointed out what looked like a large nest, about 30 feet up in this huge oak, Mark Rodriguez told investigators. There was something white mixed in with all the sticks and leaves that didn't look natural. The hunters contacted the Pocahontas County Sheriff's Office at 2:47 p.m., reporting their discovery to Deputy Sheriff Lisa Chen, who had been with the department during the original 2016 search operations. Chen arrived at the remote location at 4:15 p.m., accompanied by Forest Service Ranger Michael Thompson, the same ranger who had participated in the initial search efforts. When I saw what was in that nest, I knew immediately we needed to treat this as a potential crime scene, Chen stated in her report. Even from the ground, we could see what appeared to be bone fragments mixed with other debris in what was clearly a large bird nest. The location where the nest was discovered had not been searched during the original 2016 operations because it fell outside the established search perimeter. According to GPS coordinates recorded by investigators, the site was 4.2 miles from where Sarah Mitchell's Honda CR-V had been found, in terrain that would have required experienced hiking skills to access. West Virginia State Police were notified at 5:30 p.m., and Detective Maria Santos, who had continued working the cold case intermittently over the years, was contacted at home. A full forensic recovery operation was planned for the following morning due to the technical challenges of safely accessing the elevated nest. Professional tree climbing specialists from the West Virginia Department of Natural Resources arrived Friday morning, October 15th, to assist with evidence recovery. The operation required specialized equipment to safely reach the nest, which was located approximately 35 feet above ground in the fork of the dead oak tree. The nest was substantial, probably built up over several years by turkey vultures, explained DNR specialist Robert Hayes. These birds collect all kinds of debris for their nests, including bones from their scavenging activities. However, some of the material we observed was clearly inconsistent with typical animal remains. The evidence recovery process took 6 hours, with investigators carefully cataloging each item removed from the nest. Among the typical vulture nest materials, sticks, leaves, small animal bones, and various forest debris, forensic technicians discovered several items of human origin. The most significant discovery was a small human femur bone, identified by forensic anthropologist Dr. Jennifer Walsh as belonging to a child approximately 7 to 10 years old. Additional human remains included partial rib bones and what appeared to be fragments of a child's hiking boot. The condition and size of the femur bone strongly suggested it belonged to a young child, Dr. Walsh reported. The degree of weathering and the presence of gnaw marks indicated the bone had been exposed to elements and scavenger activity for an extended period, consistent with several years. Also recovered from the nest were fragments of a red fabric that appeared to match descriptions of Sarah Mitchell's hiking day pack, though the material was too degraded for definitive identification. Metal components including zipper pulls and buckle fragments were also found among the nest debris. DNA analysis of the bone fragments was expedited through the West Virginia State Police Laboratory, with results available by October 22, 2024. The genetic material extracted from the femur bone provided a positive match to Tommy Mitchell's DNA profile, which had been established from personal items during the original investigation. The DNA results confirmed our worst fears, Detective Santos announced at a press conference October 23rd. The remains found in the vulture nest belonged to Tommy Mitchell. This tragic discovery provides closure to one aspect of the case while raising new questions about what happened to Sarah Mitchell. The confirmation of Tommy's remains prompted an expanded search of the area surrounding the nest site. Ground-penetrating radar equipment was brought in to scan for additional buried remains, while search teams conducted systematic sweeps of the surrounding forest floor. On October 27, 2024, investigators discovered additional evidence approximately 200 yards from the nest site. Partially buried under years of accumulated leaves and forest debris, search teams found remnants of a makeshift shelter constructed from fallen branches and torn fabric. The shelter remains indicated someone had attempted to create emergency protection from the elements, reported forensic investigator Captain James Walsh. The construction was crude, but showed deliberate effort to provide cover and wind protection. Near the shelter site, Investigators recovered additional personal items, including a damaged compass, water bottle fragments, and pieces of what appeared to be a camping stove. Most significantly, they found a deteriorated leather wallet that contained Sarah Mitchell's driver's license, though the wallet's location suggested it had been scattered by animals rather than deliberately placed. Dr. Walsh's forensic analysis of the shelter remains and scattered evidence led to a reconstruction of likely events. The evidence suggests that Sarah and Tommy Mitchell became lost or disoriented during their camping trip and attempted to survive in this remote location. Dr. Walsh concluded in her report. The makeshift shelter indicates they were alive and attempting to protect themselves from weather conditions. The scattered nature of the evidence suggests that after they perished, natural scavenger activity dispersed their remains across a wider area. Weather records from November 2016 provided context for the survival challenges the family would have faced. According to National Weather Service data, temperatures in the area dropped to 19 degrees Fahrenheit on November 8th, with snow accumulation of 3–4 inches at elevations above 3,500 feet. The weather conditions that week would have been life-threatening for anyone caught unprepared in the wilderness, meteorologist Dr. Robert Martinez explained. Even experienced hikers can succumb to hypothermia quickly when temperatures drop and they lack adequate shelter. The location where Sarah and Tommy's final camp was discovered explained why they had never been found during the extensive 2016 search operations. The site was in extremely difficult terrain, accessible only by navigating through dense undergrowth and steep rocky areas that would challenge even experienced hikers. They had traveled much further from the parking area than we initially estimated, explained Forest Service Ranger Thompson. The terrain between their car and where we found evidence would have been very difficult to navigate, especially for a mother with a young child. On November 2, 2024, search teams discovered additional human remains approximately 300 yards from Tommy's final location. The skeletal remains were found beneath a rocky overhang that had provided some protection from scavengers, though animal activity had still scattered much of the evidence. DNA analysis confirmed these remains belonged to Sarah Mitchell, finally providing closure to her family after 8 years of uncertainty. The location where Sarah's remains were found suggested she had been attempting to reach the shelter area, where Tommy's evidence was discovered. Based on the positions where we found both Sarah and Tommy's remains, it appears they became separated at some point during their survival attempt, Detective Santos explained. Sarah may have been searching for help or trying to find their way back to the trails when she succumbed to the conditions. Jane Morrison, Sarah's sister, addressed media following the discovery of both sets of remains. While this brings closure to our family's long search for answers, it also confirms our worst fears about what happened to Sarah and Tommy, Morrison stated. We take some comfort in knowing they were together facing their final challenge, and that Sarah fought until the end to protect her son. The official cause of death for both Sarah and Tommy Mitchell was determined to be hypothermia and exposure to severe weather conditions. Pocahontas County Coroner Dr. Michael Stevens ruled both deaths accidental, concluding that the family had become lost during their camping trip and were unable to survive the harsh November weather. The evidence clearly indicates this was a tragic accident involving a family who became disoriented in difficult terrain and were unable to find their way back to safety, Dr. Stevens stated in his official report. The early winter storm that hit the region during their trip created life-threatening conditions that proved unsurvivable. The investigation into the suspicious circumstances that Detective Santos had discovered in 2017, including Sarah's concerns about being followed and her mysterious online contact, was officially closed without resolution. No connection was ever established between those concerns and the family's death in the wilderness. While Sarah Mitchell may have felt threatened in the weeks before her disappearance, the physical evidence shows that she and Tommy died from exposure during what appears to have been an accidental situation, Detective Santos concluded. The threats she feared, whatever their nature, did not directly cause their deaths. The case of Sarah and Tommy Mitchell was officially closed on December 1, 2024, bringing an end to one of West Virginia's longest-running missing persons investigations. Their remains were released to family members for burial, with funeral services held at Hillsborough Baptist Church on December 8, 2024. The discovery of their remains after 8 years highlighted both the vastness of the Appalachian wilderness and the dedication of law enforcement officers who never gave up searching for answers. For the small community of Hillsborough, the resolution provided closure to a mystery that had haunted residents for nearly a decade. Sarah and Tommy Mitchell will be remembered as a mother and son who loved exploring the outdoors together, Sheriff Martinez stated at the case closure press conference. While their story ended in tragedy, their memory reminds us of the importance of wilderness safety and the enduring bonds between family members who faced their final challenge together.